top of our favorite films. We're not saying this is like the top, right? Because we'll have plenty of chance to keep talking about some of our favorite movies. But today, I wanted to cover one blockbuster, one that's like a big movie everybody knows about, and one that's maybe lesser known, falls more in the indie category.
Yeah.
Okay. Mac, we'll start with you again. Ladies first.
Well, I do sound like a lady sometimes. At least according to the drive-thru people. I didn't know if we should go retro here, or do you want me to stay more in like the last 20 years?
It doesn't matter. It's just blockbuster and indie. Any era.
All right. Well, one of my favorite big movies is The Exorcist, which I've talked about a lot on my channel. It was a groundbreaking movie. Actually, both of the movies that I'm going to talk about, both the blockbuster and the indie, I guess, movie, are based off of books. The Exorcist is like the quote-unquote scariest movie ever made. It was made in 1973. Actually, I think both of the movies I'm talking about are from 1973. I just realized that. So there's perfect contrast. It was a big movie. There's actually footage, if you look up behind the scenes of when The Exorcist came out, of people fainting in the theater because they were so shocked by the movie. Which nowadays you have there's 6 movies in the theater right now that will probably make you pass out. So how the times have really changed.
Yeah, but we've also become desensitized. We don't really care.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Like when I saw Boo a Medea Halloween, I passed out 4 times. No, but
then when you saw Boo 2, you were fine. You were ready at that point.
I was desensitized.
You didn't care anymore.
No, but The Exorcist really is a marvel of filmmaking. It's
Marvel filmmaking?
Yeah, it's a Marvel film.
Was that the first Marvel film?
Yeah, Reagan from The Exorcist
same universe.
she's Iron Man's daughter.
It's the multiverse.
That's why he's not in the movie, because of the snap.
So it actually takes place in between Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, and we'll talk about the multiverse, but The Exorcist is a part of the multiverse. It's not only a really good movie in terms of the filmmaking, but it's also very scary. It's got a good story. I really like it. As for an indie, it's not really indie. It's a lesser-known movie. I'm choosing The Wicker Man, which I have advocated for because no one talks about this movie. I think it should be considered one of the great scary movies, and it's not. It's a British-made movie, also from 1973. It is a very weird movie, and I don't think a lot of people would get it. Maybe it's just because I like weird movies. It's about a Catholic detective that goes to an island to find a missing girl, and the island is inhabited by weird people. I don't want to spoil it because I want the podcast listener to watch the movie. But it's very creepy, and it's very similar to The Exorcist in terms of the themes, but for whatever reason, it was very well received. It's actually called the Citizen Kane of horror movies, and nobody talks about it.
Have you ever seen this?
No, but I've heard you said it's kind of like Midsummer, but like good.
It is Midsummer.
It sounds similar to that premise.
Midsummer, I think, took a lot from it, but it's way better than Midsummer.
Yeah. Of course, it was the 70s.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's just not really discussed anymore, which is sad. I don't know why. Christopher Lee is in it.
Oh, Count Dooku?
Sorry, I have COVID.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Do you need to get another Ricola?
I need to die. No, I have a Ricola in my mouth. Oh, gosh.
Do you need another one?
I might. No, I was going to say...
Another one.
Count Dooku's in it, and he has said that it's his favorite movie he's been in.
How is Attack of the Clones not his favorite movie that he's been in?
Yeah.
That's offensive.
I know. Sad, right? I figured you'd
He's crying. He's crying right now because Christopher Lee didn't like Attack of the Clones.
I'm sorry, Christopher Lee.
Now, my throat...
You want a Ricola?
Mm-mm. But you're about to pull out a Ricola.
It's gonna turn into a...
His bottle's just full of Ricola. Cough drops.
Those aren't ice cubes.
Just letting them melt into the water. Delicious.
This is the Ricola podcast.
COVID-19 ASMR.
Okay, so one of my favorite blockbusters, one that I could watch, I mean, it just every time, it's great. Interstellar. Oh, yes. I stinking love this movie, right? Okay, so I would say that to blockbuster because at that point Christopher Nolan was pretty well known. He'd done the Dark Knight trilogy.
Oh, that's a blockbuster.
Big budget, but it's not like attached to any IP, which is nice. It's just a standalone great movie.
Yes.
The performances, fantastic. The cinematography, it's got some twist in there. And some deep things to say about humanity and life.
Yeah.
And the score. Oh, it's got such a great score. It's just a great movie all around. It's one of those movies where one of those few movies where I get to the end and I'm like, they didn't need to change anything. That was perfect.
That was one of those movies before I was even into movies, so to say. I saw that movies in theater and I was like, I have to buy that movie. Yeah. Like that was like the start of my movie collection was that movie.
Yeah.
So
no, it's
so
great.
Good.
That's a fantastic movie. The second film, this will definitely be lesser known, and I'd like to maybe get you guys to react to it sometime. And at first, as I describe it, it's going to sound awful, but that's why I think people should watch it because it's surprisingly pretty good.
God's Not Dead 2?
No. It's a movie called The Second Chance, and it stars Michael W. Smith. Okay, so hear me out. All right.
Oh, God.
This is directed by a guy named Steve Taylor. Steve Taylor's done a couple of movies that have all flown under the radar. And the thing is, they're kind of sort of, I guess you would almost call it indie Christian, but they're too real for Christians. So it's not, you're not going to see him next to God's Not Dead at Lifeway.
And it's probably such a great movie because it is real.
It's very refreshing because it just, Israel.
It's real.
It's great because
it's real. Israel.
We are. Wait, okay. So the Second Chance is about this mega church where Michael W. Smith is the lead worship pastor, of course. I forget the name of his character. It's been a while. But they support and I think the reason I appreciate it is because I grew up in church world. I do still work in church world, so all of this was this all really happens.
It's authentic,
and it was just nice commentary on it because, some of it maybe shouldn't be the way it is. But anyway, he's at this mega church, and they, a lot of times churches will kind of adopt a church, they'll call it a sister church.
Yep.
So especially if it's a mega church, there'll be a church maybe, south side, downtown, somewhere that's, not as good, that has some rough neighborhoods, and they'll just basically, adopt that as their sister church. They'll give money to it, they'll offer support where they can, kind of take that on as a missions project. So they have this sister church in the inner city. It's an all-black neighborhood with really high crime rates, but that pastor's been there a very, very long time. And they end up asking, basically, the guy complains that, you guys have been giving us money, but you don't actually care. You haven't done anything to... And they decide they want to send one of their staff over to the church for a few months to help them, work on some stuff. And they end up sending the worship pastor, which is Michael W. Smith.
Yeah.
So basically, you got this rich guy who works at this big church who's all he does is music, right? He's pretty much just a superstar, and he has to go into this inner city and help this pastor. But I just really appreciated it.
So
because,
is it a drama?
Yeah, I would say it probably falls in that. And it sounds cheesy as I'm describing it. And then you hear that Michael W. Smith's in the lead role, and you're like, wow, that sounds even worse. He actually does a pretty good job. And I think he fits the role pretty well because that's what he is a megachurch worship pastor. So, I think it was easy for him to step into that. But,
So what makes it not a conventional Christian movie?
The way that it depicts... life. I mean, in the congregation of this church, the pastor's been there a very long time. He cusses. His wife's always trying to get him to stop cussing. It's an ongoing joke throughout the movie.
Yeah.
There's a person in their church who's considering getting an abortion. There's a kid that he's trying to keep from joining this gang. There's shootings, there's drugs, all this stuff that you normally wouldn't see in a Christian movie, even though that's the reality of a lot of inner city churches. That's what these pastors are dealing with, and it shows his faithfulness and having been in that context for such a long time, and kind of contrast the mega church to this is really being the hands and feet of Jesus in an area that needs it. And I don't know. I just appreciated it because it felt real. Like all of those things, even as I'm describing it, you can probably imagine, because you're used to how Christian movies normally are, how they'd be dealt with in a cheesy way. You know, even if you are dealing with real topics, it probably botches it because it's a Christian movie and they always make it cheesy. But this one doesn't. It feels very authentic, and I appreciate that about it. So maybe we should watch it sometime, because like nobody knows about that movie.
Yeah. That's kind of similar. Did you see that For King and Country movie?
Priceless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I was like, this doesn't feel like a Christian movie.
No.
It's like a movie with like just a good message.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like kind of like just like all made. I don't know what the word is to describe a Christian movie, but you know the
bad.
Usually bad. Yeah. Terrible.
They're really cheesy.
No,
usually,
I thought Priceless was decent. Like there's still a lot of stuff about it that I was like, eh. And so this is if you saw something to appreciate in that and how it at least broke the mold of typical Christian movies, then you'd really like this
for
one.
sure. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, because I love The Exorcist, which is my favorite Christian movie, and when like she spins her head 360, that really, to me, that's just cliche, typical Christian.
It does have a good message.
I feel like that's kind of like, you know, I mean, most Pentecostal churches, you know.
I mean, that scene actually takes place in a Pentecostal church.
Okay, so here's the deal. That's a whole nother thing. Is eventually one of the episodes, I've wanted to do this for a long time. I've wanted to cover this. But
the Pentecostal church?
In this, no, not Pentecostal church, and we may discuss this later. But like secular movies, so Hollywood movies that depict the gospel better than Christian movies do, because I could list like 5 of them that are like not Christian movies that are better Christian movies than Christian movies.
Yeah, like Boo 2 of Medea Halloween.
Okay, all right, we're done. All right, what are your movies, Austin?
Go ahead. So you were asking for our favorite blockbuster and favorite lesser-known indie movie. In a sense, they're kind of flipped on its head, because my favorite movie, which actually was an indie movie and is probably a very popular movie, is Pulp Fiction.
And now it is a blockbuster.
And now, I mean, you can consider it because of its box office, but it was independently funded. So it's kind of like...
It's a cop-out.
It's a cop-out.
Quentin.
But I like that movie just because... Not only because of how it changed cinema going forward, is like the dialogue carries like the whole movie. Like it's all dialogue.
Fiction, right, Connor?
I have, and it was the first Tarantino movie I saw.
Yeah, same here.
And
it's what got me hooked.
Yeah, no, there's something about it the first time, like if you've never like seen a Tarantino movie before, and then you see that, like just the first 15 minutes, the conversations they're having, you're just like,
what is going on?
This is amazing. I've never seen anything like this.
And it's weird because it's got like many plots in it. You can't like say, what's the plot of Pulp Fiction?
No,
you can't say it, because there's this story with these characters, this story with these characters, and they all kind of like cross by each other throughout the movie. So it's really cool. I just love it's so entertaining.
No, and like some of the plots are introduced like way late into the film.
Yeah,
like, I think it's a while into the movie that Bruce Willis's character.
The end is like the beginning.
Yeah,
and it's like
Bruce Willis shows up like an hour into the movie.
Yeah. There was a linear. Somebody took the movie and cut it linear, and how the events actually happen linear, and it got taken down immediately. Like
that's hilarious.
Tarantino was like, "No, it's not supposed to be watched that way." Like,
that's funny.
So
that's
my favorite indie blockbuster.
It's a hybrid.
The one that many people don't know that was actually a blockbuster, it was studio funded, and actually did worse in the box office compared to Pulp Fiction, was Bad Times at the El Royale.
Oh, okay. I love this movie.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
I know.
That really flew under the radar.
I don't know anybody that's seen it other than you.
That's such a great movie.
And I watched it because it was on TV, and it just started. I'm like, all right, I'll try this out.
Oh, you watched it on TV?
Yeah, I watched it on TV. Wow. That's weird. Like I didn't have any expectation. I've never even heard of the movie. I didn't know when it came out.
Oh, gotcha. That's so crazy.
And I was watching it. I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah.
This is so good.
Yeah.
And like the story it's nonlinear, and it's like it's just a solid mystery film. And it gets like weird. Yeah. Towards the end with the whole cult thing and everything. And that movie.
Oh, and Chris Hemsworth is so fun in that movie.
And that's what I was going to touch on is Chris Hemsworth. It was nice to see him not as Thor or the dumb guy in Ghostbusters or the other dumm guy in MIB International. Like he's always like stupid. And this was kind of cool to see him actually be an actor.
For sure.
And it had me like
that offers something for everybody.
Yeah.
Whether you like a little bit of humor, a little bit of scariness, a little bit of suspense.
And John Hamm, anything John Hamm is in makes me happy.
I love him.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, they talked about him being Batman for a little bit. I would have actually really liked that.
That would have been cool.
He would have done well.
Anyway, that's a great movie.
Yeah.
And it's definitely one that flew under the radar. And that's kind of because, like I said earlier, like everybody's talking about the big movies, but like there are some that are even blockbusters that kind of fly under the radar that are actually really good. And I hope that we can that's what we can bring to the table in the YouTube film conversation is talking about some of those movies that people maybe aren't.